The gift of growing older. Let's take a moment together and just breathe. Really, let's pause. Notice the gentle in and out of your breath. The feeling of your body resting here, wherever you are. Maybe you're sitting at your kitchen table. Maybe you're alone in a quiet room. Or maybe the sounds of life are bustling all around you. Wherever you are here, alive, present, in this one precious moment. Have you ever found yourself watching the world outside your window and wondering where all the years have gone? Maybe it hits you when you look in the mirror and notice a new line, or when you try to do something that used to come so easily but now requires a little more effort. Sometimes it sneaks up on you during a quiet afternoon when memories of youth rush in. Those days of boundless energy, when your body felt strong, your mind was sharp, and the future seemed limitless. But as time moves on, things shift. Maybe you notice your knees ache in the mornings, or that it takes a little longer to bounce back after a long day. You might catch yourself asking, is this really what aging is? Am I destined to simply slow down, to fade quietly into the background? These thoughts are so common, yet rarely spoken aloud. Our culture teaches us to dread getting older, as if every year steals something away: vitality, beauty, possibility. But what if aging could mean something entirely different? Let me share a story that lingers in my heart. One afternoon, I was sitting on a bench in the park, feeling the weight of time, thinking about all the things I used to do, all the changes I'd seen in myself. That's when I noticed an elderly man, white-haired and a little stooped, playing frisbee with his granddaughter. The air was alive with laughter. He didn't move as quickly as she did, but every toss, every catch was full of joy. At one point, he tripped and nearly fell, but both of them just laughed even harder, collapsing into the grass together, carefree and utterly present. Watching them, I realized that the body ages, but the spirit, the part of us that feels joy, that connects, that loves, can remain as vibrant as ever. That moment cracked open a new perspective for me. Maybe getting older isn't about decline or loss. Maybe it's about becoming more ourselves, letting go of the need to prove, to compete, to hurry. Maybe, as the noise of the world fades, there is space for something richer to blossom inside: wisdom, compassion, peace. In Buddhist philosophy, this stage of life is not a time to withdraw or despair. It's a sacred opportunity, a chance to cultivate deeper understanding and happiness that isn't tied to what we can do or achieve, but to how we can simply be. The Buddha often spoke of the gifts that come with age, the ability to see through life's illusions, to let go of what no longer serves us, and to turn inward, discovering the true strength and clarity that was always there. So, I want to gently challenge you. What if these years, right now, could be the most meaningful, the most rewarding? What if you could wake each day with a quiet sense of purpose, a gentle gratitude for the life you're living? What if, instead of asking, "Is this all there is?" you asked, "What more can I experience, learn, and love in this chapter?" Take a moment to consider. Are there things you once loved that you've set aside? Are there relationships that could be rekindled, passions waiting to be explored, or simple joys you haven't allowed yourself in a while? Remember, it's never too late. Just like that grandfather in the park, you don't need to move fast or do something extraordinary. Sometimes it's the smallest acts, the smile you share with a stranger, the warmth of sunlight on your face, the taste of your favorite meal, that bring the deepest fulfillment. Over the coming minutes, I'm going to share with you 8 timeless lessons inspired by Buddhist wisdom, 8 gentle, practical ways to turn this season of life into a time of renewal and quiet flourishing. These practices are simple, but their impact can be profound. All offer stories, questions, and small steps you can take to rediscover peace, strength, and joy, no matter your age or circumstance. So, are you ready to walk this path with me? Are you willing to open your heart to the idea that aging is not about shrinking, but about expanding, growing into the person you've always been beneath the surface. Together, let's reimagine what it means to get older. Let's welcome each day as a fresh opportunity to live with presence, wisdom, and compassion. This is your invitation to see aging not as an ending, but as a beautiful, unfolding chapter, rich with potential, peace, and a joy that only grows deeper with time. Walk your way to strength. Let's begin this next step in our journey with something beautifully simple: walking. I know, it might sound almost too ordinary to be profound. But let's pause and think about it for a moment. When was the last time you truly paid attention as you walked? Not rushing to get somewhere, not lost in your thoughts or your phone, but simply walking, step by mindful step, aware of the world around you and the feeling of your own body moving through space. For most of my life, I treated walking as just a way to get from point A to point B. But a few years ago, things started to change. My body began to feel heavier, my energy wasn't the same as it used to be. Some mornings, even standing up felt like a chore. Maybe you felt that way too, like you're carrying the weight of years in your bones. One morning, instead of pushing myself to do some intense workout, I just put on my shoes and went outside for a walk. At first, it wasn't magical. My knees creaked, my back ached, and my mind buzzed with worries. Groceries to buy, emails to answer, little aches and pains. But I kept walking, slowly, quietly, breathing in the crisp air. Step by step, something started to shift. My breath became deeper, my thoughts softened. With every step, I felt more rooted, more alive, more present. This wasn't just exercise, it was something deeper. It was, as I later learned from Buddhist teachings, a form of meditation in motion. In Buddhism, there's a practice called walking meditation. The Buddha himself spent much of his life walking, teaching, wandering, sharing wisdom. For him, each step was an act of mindfulness, a way to ground himself in the present moment. There's a saying, "When you walk, just walk." Simple words, but so powerful. It means letting go of the rush, the destination, and returning to your body, your breath, this step, right here, right now. I remember meeting a remarkable woman at a temple retreat not long ago. She was in her 70s, her hair silver, her walk slow but steady. Every afternoon, she'd take a gentle walk around the gardens, pausing often to notice the flowers, the birds, even the sunlight through the leaves. I asked her once what motivated her to keep this routine, even as her legs became weaker with age. She smiled and said, "Walking is my sanctuary. When I walk, I find my peace. My legs carry me forward, and my mind follows. Even on the hard days, I always finish my walk feeling stronger inside." Her words stuck with me, and over time I began to see how true they were. When we walk with intention, not just out of habit but as a mindful practice, we create a bridge between our body and our mind. Each step becomes an anchor, pulling us back from worries about the future or regrets about the past. Each breath draws us deeper into presence. Walking becomes an act of kindness toward ourselves, a chance to release the clutter in our minds and the heaviness in our hearts. You don't need to walk far or fast. Maybe it's just a stroll around the block, or even from one end of your home to the other. What matters is your attention, your intention. Feel your feet touching the earth. Notice the rhythm of your breath. Listen to the subtle sounds around you, the rustle of leaves, the distant hum of traffic, maybe even the beating of your own heart. With each step, you're teaching yourself resilience and self-compassion. Walking is also a wonderful metaphor for life. Sometimes the path is easy, sometimes it's steep. There will be days when your steps are light, and days when every step feels like an effort. But as long as you keep moving, one step at a time, you are growing stronger, more grounded, and more at peace. So, let me ask you, how are you walking through your own life right now? Are you rushing, resisting, or are you able to slow down and appreciate the journey? What would it feel like to bring a little more presence, a little more kindness into each step you take? Today, I invite you to try it for yourself. Take a walk, not as a task, but as a gift to your body and mind. Even just 10 minutes. Notice what changes. Notice how you feel. Maybe, like me and that wise woman at the temple, you'll discover that walking is more than movement. It's a return to yourself. Let's walk this path together, one mindful step at a time. Eat like you love yourself. Let's take a gentle breath together and shift our attention to something that often goes unnoticed in our daily lives: how we nourish ourselves. Food is such a basic part of living, yet so many of us, especially as we grow older, rarely pause to consider its deeper meaning. Have you ever caught yourself eating on autopilot, just grabbing whatever's easy or comforting, maybe standing over the kitchen sink or in front of the TV? If so, you're not alone. For years, that was my routine too. There was a time when my meals were an afterthought. Breakfast was often a cup of coffee and whatever snack I could find. Lunch might be something quick, eaten in a rush between chores or appointments. Dinner? Sometimes just leftovers, barely warmed as I scrolled through my phone. I told myself it didn't matter. There were more important things to worry about. But over time, my body started speaking up. I felt sluggish, unfocused, and strangely disconnected from myself. It was around this period that I met a remarkable elderly monk at a meditation retreat. He had a gentle, joyful presence. One afternoon, I asked him about his secret to health and vitality at such an advanced age. He smiled and said, "I eat like I'm taking care of someone I love." That simple phrase shifted something inside me. He explained that in Buddhism, eating is more than just satisfying hunger. It's a way to express gratitude and respect for the body, this vessel that carries us through life. Mindful eating, he said, is a practice of loving kindness. It's about honoring our body with every bite, recognizing that food is energy, medicine, and a gift from the earth. When we eat with awareness, we're not just nourishing the body, we're feeding the mind and spirit too. Inspired by his words, I began to make small, conscious changes. I started cooking simple, wholesome meals, soups with fresh vegetables, brown rice, a sprinkle of herbs. Instead of eating in a hurry, I would sit down, even if just for a few minutes, and really taste my food. I noticed the colors, the aroma, the way each bite made me feel. It was no longer just about getting full. It was about being present, about caring for myself as I would for a dear friend. This shift had a ripple effect. I found that when I ate with love and attention, my energy improved, my mood lifted. I felt a renewed sense of respect for myself, like I was finally listening to what my body truly needed, not just what my cravings demanded. And it wasn't about being perfect or following strict diets or denying myself treats. It was about balance, intention, and gratitude. The Buddha often taught that moderation is the path to wisdom. He reminded his followers not to eat too much or too little, but to find the middle way, eating to nourish, to heal, and to support a life of mindfulness. Each meal can be a small act of meditation, a chance to reconnect with our body, to slow down, and be grateful for the nourishment in front of us. I once heard another beautiful story from a friend in her 60s who struggled with emotional eating for years. She said the turning point for her wasn't counting calories or reading labels. It was a moment of self-compassion. One day, she stood in her kitchen, hand on her heart, and asked herself, "What would I feed someone I truly love?" That simple question helped her transform her relationship with food. She began to choose ingredients and meals that made her feel vibrant and cared for, rather than guilty or deprived. So I invite you, how are you nourishing yourself today? Are you eating with intention, with gratitude? Do your meals make you feel energized, cared for, and alive? Or are you just going through the motions, feeding habits rather than your heart? Try this. At your next meal, pause for just a moment. Notice the colors and textures of your food. Take a breath before your first bite. Chew slowly, really tasting each flavor. With every bite, remind yourself, this is an act of love, a way to say thank you to your body for all it does for you. When we eat like we love ourselves, food becomes more than fuel. It becomes a daily practice of kindness, presence, and deep gratitude. And as we age, this simple shift can be one of the greatest gifts we give to ourselves. Let's nourish not just our bodies, but our whole being, one mindful meal at a time.
Laugh often. Let's pause together for a moment and remember something simple, something so easy to forget as we get older: the power of laughter. When was the last time you really, truly laughed? I'm not talking about a polite chuckle or a quick smile. I mean the kind of laughter that bubbles up from deep inside, that shakes your whole body and, for a moment, washes everything else away. The kind of laughter that leaves you feeling lighter, connected, and more alive. As we journey through life, it's easy to let laughter fade into the background. Responsibilities pile up, we become caretakers, breadwinners, problem solvers. The world asks us to be serious, to be strong. But somewhere inside us, that playful spirit, the one that giggled as a child, that found joy in the silliest moments, still lives, quietly waiting to be rediscovered. I want to share a little story from my own life. One evening, not too long ago, I sat down with my oldest friend, Betty. We've weathered many storms together, good times and heartbreaks, triumphs and losses. But there's one tradition we always keep: movie night. On this particular night, we picked a slapstick comedy, one of those old black and white films where everything is over the top and nothing makes much sense. For a while, we watched in silence, sipping tea. But then, out of nowhere, there was a scene so ridiculous that we both burst into laughter. We laughed so hard, tears ran down our faces. For those few minutes, our aches, worries, and the heaviness of the world simply vanished. We were just two old friends, lost in a moment of pure joy. That night reminded me that laughter is more than just a reaction. It's medicine. Modern science even backs this up. Laughter reduces stress, boosts our immune system, and lifts our mood. But Buddhist wisdom has known this for centuries. In Buddhist teachings, laughter is seen as a doorway, a release from attachment and worry, an invitation back to the present moment. The Buddha himself was known to smile and laugh with his followers, encouraging them not to take themselves or life too seriously. Isn't it interesting how laughter connects us? Have you ever noticed how it's almost impossible to stay distant or angry with someone when you're laughing together? Laughter breaks down walls, it softens the heart, it weaves us together. It reminds us that, underneath our differences, we share the same human experience: the need to feel joy, to belong, to let go, even for a moment. As we age, though, it's easy to forget this gift. Sometimes we believe that growing older means growing more serious. But I've come to realize it's often the opposite. The people I admire most in their later years are the ones who have kept their sense of humor, who laugh at life's little quirks, who tell stories that leave everyone smiling. Their laughter doesn't erase the hard times, but it helps transform them. So let me gently ask you, when was the last time you allowed yourself a real healing laugh? What makes you laugh, even now? Is it a silly joke, a funny memory, the antics of a pet or grandchild, or simply the joy of being with people who know you best? Maybe it's time to invite more of those moments into your life. Try this. The next time you're feeling weighed down, seek out something or someone that brings you joy. Watch a comedy, share a story, or just let yourself be a little silly. Laughter doesn't erase our challenges, but it makes them easier to carry. And when we share our laughter with others, we give them permission to do the same. In the end, laughter is a practice, a way of returning to ourselves, of lightening the load, of remembering that joy is always available, no matter our age. It's a gentle reminder that, as the Buddha taught, freedom from suffering often begins with a smile. So let's make room for laughter, not just as a memory, but as a daily act of self-kindness and connection. Your spirit, your heart, and everyone around you will thank you for it. Build a routine. Let's take a quiet moment together. Maybe close your eyes, if you like, and notice the gentle rhythm of your breath. Now, picture a typical day in your life. How does it begin and how does it flow? If you're anything like me, you may have noticed that as we grow older, life's structure often fades. The routines that once gave our days meaning, a job, raising children, daily responsibilities, begin to slip away, leaving behind long, empty stretches of time. At first, this freedom can feel exhilarating, but after a while, it may start to feel unmoored, like a boat set adrift without a rudder. I remember the first few months after I retired. I thought I'd love having nothing on my schedule, but instead I found myself restless, unsure of what to do next. The days seemed to blur together. I felt a subtle loss of purpose. Maybe you've felt this too. Maybe you've wondered, how can I make these years meaningful when so much of what once structured my life is gone? What I've come to realize is that building a gentle, intentional routine can make all the difference. Not a rigid, demanding schedule, but a mindful rhythm. Simple daily habits that anchor us, bring calm, and fill our days with small joys. For me, it started with the smallest of habits. Making a cup of coffee each morning and savoring it on the porch. The ritual of boiling water, the scent of fresh coffee, the way the sunlight shifted as I sipped, it became my anchor. Soon, I added a short walk after breakfast, just to feel the air on my skin and hear the birds waking up. Sometimes I'd read a chapter of a book or tend to my garden, letting my hands get dirty as my mind grew quiet. I've spoken to so many people, friends, neighbors, even strangers, who found their own peaceful routines. One woman told me she begins each day with 10 minutes of gentle stretching and a gratitude list. Another friend sets aside a half hour every afternoon to call her sister, no matter what. For each of them, these rituals are more than just habits. They are lifelines, tiny ceremonies that keep the day from drifting away unnoticed. Buddhist wisdom teaches us the value of discipline, not as something harsh or punishing, but as a pathway to mindfulness and freedom. The Buddha encouraged his followers to live with intention, to honor each moment and every task, no matter how ordinary, as an opportunity for presence. There's a story I love about an elderly monk who kept to the same routine for decades. Quiet meditation before dawn, mindful eating, sweeping the temple grounds, tending to his small vegetable garden. When asked if he ever grew bored, he smiled and said, "In these simple acts, I find endless peace. Each day, I begin again." That story always reminds me that a good routine isn't about filling every minute. It's about returning over and over to the small things that nourish us. Cup of tea, a favorite song, watering a plant, a quiet prayer, or meditation. These are like stones in a river, giving us something solid to step on as life flows around us. So, let me ask you, what small rituals bring you peace or joy? Is it writing in a journal? Walking your dog? Sitting quietly with a morning coffee or tea? Reading a poem before bed? If you don't have a routine, what's one gentle habit you could add, just to start? I invite you to experiment. Try weaving just one intentional act into your day. Notice how it feels, not just in your body, but in your mind and spirit. Over time, these habits can grow into a rhythm, giving shape to your days and helping you rediscover meaning even in the quietest chapters of life. Remember, the goal isn't perfection. Life will always have unexpected changes. But when you have even a loose routine, it's easier to return to center when things get stormy. As we practice building our routines, we're really practicing presence. We're saying, this moment matters. I matter. My life, in all its simplicity, is worth tending to. May you find your own gentle rhythm, one that brings you calm, joy, and the quiet peace that comes from living each day with intention.
Talk to someone. Let's take a mindful breath together. I invite you, just for a moment, to notice the quiet around you. Maybe the hum of your home or the gentle rustle of leaves outside. Now, consider this.
When was the last time you truly felt seen or heard by another person? Not just in passing, not just a hello or a how are you, but a real meaningful conversation. As we grow older, it's easy for connection to fade into the background. Friends move away, family gets busy, the days grow quieter. Sometimes it can feel like we're living on an island, watching the world from afar. I know this feeling well. There was a season in my own life, a few years after retirement, when I found myself surrounded by silence more than ever before. At first, I enjoyed the peace, but slowly I began to feel a subtle ache of loneliness, as if my heart was calling out for company. It took me a while to realize that reaching out was not a sign of weakness, but an act of courage and self-care. One evening, feeling especially isolated, I decided to call an old friend I hadn't spoken to in years. Our conversation started with awkward small talk, but soon the stories flowed. Laughter, old memories, even a few tears. When I hung up, I felt lighter, as though a gentle breeze had swept away the dust that had settled in my soul. This is the quiet magic of human connection. We are social beings, wired for community. Even the Buddha recognized the essential nature of Sangha, the spiritual community. In Buddhist teachings, the Sangha isn't just a group of monks and nuns. It's anyone who supports us on our journey. Friends, neighbors, family, or kind strangers. The Buddha said, friendship is not half the spiritual life. It's the whole of the spiritual life. We need each other to grow, to heal, and to truly flourish. Research backs this up. Studies show that people who maintain strong social connections live longer, happier lives, and are more resilient to stress and illness. Connection doesn't always mean having a big circle of friends. Sometimes it's the simple act of talking with a neighbor, sharing a smile at the grocery store, or spending time with a beloved pet. What matters is the feeling of being understood and accepted just as we are. Let me share another story. I once met a woman in her 70s who had spent most of her life caring for others, her children, her spouse, her aging parents. She told me that for many years she put her own needs last, believing it was noble to be strong and independent. But eventually, the weight of always being the helper became too much. One day, she joined a local book club, mostly just to get out of the house. At first, she felt shy and out of place, but little by little, she began to share her stories and to listen to those of others. Over time, these small gatherings became a lifeline, a source of laughter, wisdom, and renewal. She told me, "It saved me. I realized I didn't have to carry everything alone." This is the invitation I want to offer you today. If you're feeling alone or simply craving deeper connection, take one small step. Reach out to someone, a family member, a friend, even someone you've lost touch with. You don't need a special reason. A simple, "I was thinking about you," or "How are you doing these days?" can open a door. And if reaching out feels intimidating, remember, you're not alone in that feeling. Vulnerability takes courage, but the more we practice, the easier it becomes. You might even consider joining a local group, a class, or a volunteer project. Buddhist communities, whether in temples or online, are often open to people of all backgrounds, offering a space to meditate, learn, and share life's journey together. Ask yourself, who could you talk to today? What conversation, however small, could brighten your day or someone else's? You never know whose heart needs the same warmth and connection as yours. The path to peace and happiness is rarely walked alone. As we open our hearts to one another, we discover that we're all walking together, each of us holding a lantern to light the way. So let's reach out, listen deeply, and remind one another, you are not alone. Let's nurture our connections, one conversation at a time.
Try something new. Let's take a deep breath together. Notice, just for a moment, how easily we can fall into the same patterns. Our favorite chair, the same route to the grocery store, the same meals, the same routines day after day. There's a certain comfort in the familiar, isn't there? It helps us feel safe, grounded. But if we're honest, sometimes comfort can quietly slip into stagnation. Our days start to blend together, and we might wonder, when was the last time I felt truly alive? When was the last time I learned something new? It's a feeling I know well. After retiring, I found myself sticking to what I knew. My days were comfortable, but sometimes they felt a bit too quiet, almost like I was standing still while the world moved on. Then one afternoon, I noticed a flyer for a pottery class at a local community center. I'd never tried pottery before. In fact, I'd always thought of myself as all thumbs when it came to anything artistic. But something inside nudged me, just a gentle curiosity. I signed up before I could talk myself out of it. The first class was awkward, even a little embarrassing. My hands fumbled with the clay, the wheel spun out of control, and I ended up with more mess than masterpiece. But you know what? I laughed. I let myself be a beginner. With each class, I improved a little, but more importantly, I started to feel a spark, a sense of playfulness and possibility that I hadn't felt in years. I'm not alone in this experience. One of my dearest friends, Marjorie, decided at age 70 to start painting. She was nervous too, worried that she'd be bad at it or that it was too late to learn. But as she tells it, the moment she dipped her brush into paint and saw the color come alive on the canvas, she felt a new kind of joy. Her paintings aren't in any galleries, but her kitchen is now filled with little bursts of color and stories. Buddhist wisdom calls this the beginner's mind, the ability to meet each moment as if it's fresh and new, without judgment or the weight of past experience. The Buddha encouraged his followers to greet life with curiosity, openness, and a willingness to see things differently, no matter their age or history. It's about showing up fully for life, again and again. Trying something new isn't about being perfect or impressing anyone. In fact, it's not really about the outcome at all. It's about the experience, the act of learning, the willingness to make mistakes, and the surprise of discovering a hidden talent or unexpected delight. When we step outside our comfort zones, we invite growth. We remind ourselves that life is still full of mystery and adventure, no matter how many birthdays we've celebrated. I know starting something new can feel daunting. There's always that voice inside that says, "What if I fail? What if I look foolish?" But I've learned that the only real failure is never giving ourselves the chance to try. Each new experience, no matter how small, keeps our minds flexible, our spirits youthful, and our hearts open. So, let me ask you, what's something you've always wanted to try, but hesitated? Is there a language you want to learn, an instrument you want to play, a new recipe you want to cook, or a class you want to join? Maybe it's as simple as taking a different route on your daily walk, or striking up a conversation with someone new at the park. Give yourself permission to be a beginner. Embrace the awkwardness, the laughter, and the little victories. If you fall in love with something new, wonderful. If not, you'll still have the story, the memory of having been brave, of having chosen curiosity over comfort. Life doesn't have to get smaller as we age. In fact, it can grow richer, more vibrant, and more surprising, if we let it. Every day is an invitation to discover, to experiment, to create. Today, I invite you to take that first step. Try something new, no matter how small. Celebrate the courage it takes to begin again. Who knows, the next great joy of your life might be waiting just around the corner. Let's greet life with open hearts and curious minds, together as beginners, again and again.
Sleep like a champ. Let's take a gentle breath and let our shoulders relax. Tonight, I want to talk about something simple yet deeply sacred: sleep. It's so easy to take for granted, but as we grow older, we realize that a good night's sleep is not just a luxury, it's a treasure, a true act of self-love. Think about it for a moment. How many times have you laid awake, mind racing, worrying about tomorrow's tasks, or replaying yesterday's regrets? How often do you find yourself checking your phone late at night, telling yourself just 5 more minutes as the hours slip by? I've been there too, nights when rest feels out of reach, even though my body craves it. As we age, sleep can become more elusive. Our bodies change, our rhythms shift, and what once came easily now requires a bit more care and intention. But what if we began to see sleep not as a battleground, but as a nightly ritual, something gentle and healing, worthy of our attention and respect? Buddhist wisdom teaches us about the middle way, the art of balance, not too much, not too little. In the same spirit, sleep is a time for balance and restoration. It's the pause that allows us to recharge, to release the burdens of the day, and to prepare for a new beginning. The Buddha encouraged his followers to honor the rhythms of their bodies, to rest deeply, and to greet each day with clarity and presence. Let me share something personal. There was a period in my life when I struggled with sleep. I'd toss and turn, frustrated and exhausted. No amount of counting sheep could quiet my mind. One evening, I decided to approach sleep differently, not as a problem to solve, but as an act of self-care. I began to create a little nighttime ritual, turning off my phone an hour before bed, brewing a cup of calming herbal tea, and reading a favorite book by soft light. Before lying down, I placed my hand on my heart and silently thanked my body for carrying me through another day. It wasn't an instant fix, but over time, I started to drift off more easily, and my mornings felt brighter, more spacious. These small acts, putting away screens, sipping tea, reading, expressing gratitude, send a signal to the mind and body. It's time to let go. It's time to rest. They're like gentle bridges that help us cross from the busyness of the day to the quiet shores of sleep. Science tells us that quality sleep supports everything from our immune system to our memory, mood, and longevity. But on a deeper level, sleep is a spiritual practice, a time to surrender, to trust in the natural cycles of life, to reconnect with stillness. In many Buddhist traditions, the moments before sleep are a sacred pause, a chance to reflect, forgive, and let go. Some monks and nuns even offer a short prayer of gratitude before bed, honoring their body and breath for one more day of life. You don't have to join a monastery to bring this peace into your own nights. Try creating a small evening routine that feels nurturing for you. Maybe light a candle, listen to soothing music, or write down 3 things you're grateful for. Let your bedroom become a sanctuary. Soft sheets, dim lights, maybe a hint of calming scent in the air. Turn your bed into a place of kindness, not just a pit stop on the way to tomorrow. Ask yourself, how can I honor my need for rest tonight? What small act could make bedtime feel more sacred? Remember, you deserve deep rest, not just for your body, but for your heart and mind. And if sleep doesn't come easily, be gentle with yourself. Let go of the pressure to perform sleep perfectly. Even a few quiet moments of stillness, a soft breath, a loving thought are powerful acts of care. Each night, as you close your eyes, see it as a return to balance, to wholeness, to the quiet wisdom inside you. In this way, sleep becomes more than a necessity. It becomes a gift, a daily homecoming for your soul. So tonight and every night, let yourself sleep like a champ, fully, deeply, with gratitude. May your dreams be gentle, and may you wake each morning restored, peaceful, and ready to greet the new day.
You honor your journey. Let's take one more mindful breath together. As you breathe in, let gratitude fill your heart. As you breathe out, imagine letting go of all the striving and self-judgment you may have carried through the years. Now, pause for just a moment and ask yourself, when was the last time you truly celebrated yourself? Not for a major accomplishment, but simply for being you, for making it through another day, another season, another chapter of life. It's so easy to overlook our own efforts. We're taught to keep going, to strive for more, to fix what's lacking, to take care of everyone else first. But how often do we stop and honor the quiet strength, the small victories, and the persistence that has brought us to this very moment? I remember a week not so long ago when everything seemed to go wrong. Little setbacks piled up,
missed appointments, forgotten errands, a friend's harsh words echoing in my mind. By Friday night, I was exhausted, tempted to criticize myself for not doing better. But instead, I did something different. I treated myself to a slice of my favorite pie. I sat by the window, took a slow breath, and told myself, "You made it. That's enough." It wasn't a grand celebration, but it felt meaningful. For that moment, I recognized my own resilience and honored the effort it took just to keep going. A friend of mine, Clara, shared a similar story. For decades, she was the rock for her family, the one who always showed up, always kept things together, often putting her own dreams aside. One day, after a long walk by the river, she stopped and realized just how much she'd been carrying. That afternoon, she wrote herself a thank you note. "Thank you for your patience, your care, your strength. Thank you for being here, even when it was hard." She told me later that it was the first time in years she had acknowledged herself in that way, and it sparked a quiet shift, a deeper sense of gratitude and self-worth. In Buddhist philosophy, this spirit is called mudita, sympathetic joy. It's the practice of celebrating the happiness and success of others, but it also means turning that same compassion inward. The Buddha encouraged us to honor not just our milestones, but the journey itself, the small steps, the inner growth, the courage it takes to live with kindness and presence day after day. So let me ask you, what if you gave yourself permission to celebrate more often? What if you took a moment right now to recognize the strength it took to face this week, the patience you showed in a difficult conversation, the small act of kindness you offered someone else? Celebration doesn't always need confetti or applause. Sometimes it's a quiet smile, a gentle pat on the back, a moment of stillness where you simply say, "I am enough." Here's a gentle practice to try. At the end of each day, reflect on one thing, however small, that you can honor about yourself. Maybe you kept your cool in traffic, reached out to an old friend, or simply made a nourishing meal. Write it down or say it out loud. Let it land in your heart. And let's not forget, celebration can be shared. When you honor your own journey, you inspire others to do the same. Imagine a world where we encouraged each other, not just for big wins, but for everyday courage. The courage to show up, to keep learning, to keep loving. How would that change your life? How might it change your relationships, your community? If you ever doubt the power of this practice, remember, gratitude and celebration are transformative. They nurture resilience, fuel motivation, and cultivate joy. They are a way of coming home to yourself, of saying, "My journey matters." So tonight, or whenever you're watching this, I invite you to celebrate something about yourself. Give yourself a little kindness. Honor your path. Every twist, every setback, every victory, big or small. Your story, just as it is worthy of gratitude and gentle celebration. Let's make space for joy, for self-recognition, and for honoring the quiet, steady journey of our lives. You are here, you are growing, and that, in itself, is worth celebrating. Let's take a final, mindful breath together. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest. Notice the quiet, steady rhythm of your heart. In this moment, I invite you to reflect on everything we've shared today, not just as ideas, but as living invitations to create deeper meaning in your own life, no matter where you are on your journey. Aging isn't the ending so many of us have been taught to fear. It's not a slow fade into the background or a surrender of dreams. Instead, it can be a time of awakening, a precious chapter where we're called to live more deeply, more honestly, and with greater compassion for ourselves and others. The 8 practices we've explored together aren't just tips or temporary fixes. They are gentle pathways back to yourself, ways to cultivate peace, resilience, and connection in the very fabric of your everyday life. Whether it's mindful walking, nourishing your body with kindness, inviting more laughter, building small rituals, reaching out to others, trying new things, honoring your need for rest, or celebrating your quiet victories, each is a doorway to a fuller, more meaningful experience of life.
The beauty of these practices is that you don't have to transform everything overnight. True change begins with a single conscious step. Maybe tonight you pause before dinner to savor your meal. Or tomorrow morning you take a slow walk in the fresh air, letting each step ground you in the present. Perhaps you reach out to an old friend, or simply smile at your own reflection and thank yourself for showing up day after day. Each small act is a seed, planted quietly in the soil of your daily life. With time, patience, and care, these seeds grow into a garden of well-being, joy, and presence. Buddhist wisdom reminds us, every moment is a chance to begin again. There's no finish line for growth or awakening. The present is where your true power lies. This is where you nourish your body, tend your heart, and care for your mind. Even when things are difficult, you can always return to the here and now, finding peace in the simple act of breathing, in a gentle word, in a mindful pause. Let me ask you, what is one small change you feel inspired to try after watching this video? Maybe there's a practice you're curious about, or perhaps you've remembered something you once loved but set aside. Whatever it is, I encourage you to start, right where you are with whatever you have. Progress isn't measured in giant leaps, but in the quiet courage to take the next step. And as you walk this path, remember, you're not alone. This community is here to support you, to share wisdom, and to grow together. I invite you to leave a comment below. Share your thoughts, your experiences, your questions, or even a small victory from your week. When you share, you inspire others and remind all of us that our stories matter. If you found value in this video, I'd be honored if you'd subscribe and join us for future explorations of Buddhist wisdom, mindful living, and practical tools for a peaceful, resilient life. Our journey together doesn't end here. With each new video, we'll continue to discover gentle ways to live with more depth, more kindness, and more connection to ourselves and those around us. So, as we close, let's offer gratitude for our bodies that carry us, for our minds that keep seeking, and for our hearts that keep opening, no matter what. May you carry these practices into your days, letting them anchor you in the present and light the way for what's to come. Remember, aging isn't about slowing down, it's about waking up. It's about living each day with intention, embracing every experience, and finding joy in both the extraordinary and the everyday. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'm grateful for your presence, your attention, and your willingness to walk this path together. Until next time, take care of yourself and of the beautiful journey you're on. If you found something helpful in this video, consider sharing your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. Your story might just inspire someone else on their journey.